Hey everybody, welcome to Storm Talk with your news meteorologist Brian Good. For those of you that join me on the Facebook live chat, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And here's more detailed now analysis of the weather. That was the overview. Now is the details. First off, a severe weather risk for tonight. Not anywhere close by. Tomorrow, way to our northwest. And then as we head into Saturday, which it's not showing up. Of course, it's not showing up. It's the way it always goes for me. But it is basically a marginal risk in this area. But I will say there's some new data coming in this evening that argues for maybe a different scenario for the Ohio Valley for the weekend. Let me explain. First off, here's a wide view of how things are set up right now. This catches your eye. Look at this low, just spinning here over Texas, responsible for that feeding of moisture into Texas, providing them with the flooding nightmare they've been dealing with in that area. And it's not going anywhere. Look at it, it's just sitting there. Now, at the same time, closer to home, we have a front that has draped across the area that came through in the past 24 hours. It's going to pretty much disappear off the map. And what we're going to find is the upper low over Texas is then going to start throwing moisture ahead of this front up here waiting for us as we get into the weekend, which is a key movement on how things will progress. At the same time, by the way, there's Bonnie, Tropical Depression Bonnie, still off Cape Hatteras. So here's that front. So how that low in Texas interacts with sending the moisture our way and getting our front we have in the area out of the way, those are the three pieces to the puzzle that are going to explain how the weather is going to evolve as we head into this upcoming weekend, especially Saturday into Sunday. Tomorrow is the transition day into that pattern. So let's start with that. Here's Futurecast overnight tonight. We're quiet, but watch what happens after 2 a.m. You're going to start to see an area of gray and white fill in here. That's not clouds. That is fog that develops. It does appear the greatest chance for fog is going to be where the rain was the heaviest and more widespread. That would be our northern areas, including Louisville, not as much in central Kentucky. The fog will lift. We'll get some sunshine. I'm debating still raising the high temperature for tomorrow because the front is around, but while it may be active, I don't see it being a repeat of what we had today. And the more north you are, the more you'll be in the zone of okay. And the more south you are, the more you'll be in that storm zone and not okay. So it's going to be a divided wave country for tomorrow, but most of us will be in good shape. Then as we into Friday night, this will be after midnight. So if you have plans Friday night through midnight, you're fine. After midnight, we start to see the moisture move in ahead of that low out of Texas, and then the front begins to approach our northwest. So right away, we're going to move right into storm mode early on Saturday as that push of warmer air moves in that moisture field. So it could be active for some of you in the morning, showers and thunderstorms. But here's a change. For a while there, it looked like we would be so active, the front would get here so quick, we would have very little warming that would take place on Saturday. But the NAM model is trending, as well as the GFS, and this is the RPM, trending to the point now where we would actually warm up and get into a decent warm sector before the front moves in Saturday afternoon, evening. Now, if that's the case, you see what's happening here. The models were saying earlier, 78, 79 for high. Now they're coming out with 87. That is a huge difference considering that the model was indicating our convective temperature. The point when the atmosphere would be able to support thunderstorms was 80. Way above that. So now we've got to not only worry about heavy rain, but now we're going to have to go back to thinking of maybe some stronger convection as far as hail and strong damage and wind potential in the area. Tornado potential is low, quite low. It's not zero, but it's quite low. But still not zero. Either way, it's a new change in the data. I'm still analyzing that, and I'll make a decision on this. I'll show you more details on that in a second. That will move on through, and then we're not going to really quiet down Saturday night. We may see it ease somewhat, but we're going to be very humid all night long Saturday night, so I think the showers and thunderstorms will regenerate, and I think Saturday night it's going to be a flooding threat. So potential for strong convection, damaging winds, and hail in locations around our area on Saturday afternoon if we get that heating as indicated. And then we'll have more of a flooding threat later on Saturday. We still have a flooding threat during the day Saturday, but more so of an issue Saturday night. So then let's analyze the soundings. Here's the NAM. It is showing a severe sounding for Saturday afternoon. The shear is about 39. As you all know, my threshold usually is 40 for severe wind potential. So we're right there at that mark. Lifted index about roughly -5 to -7 in the layers of the atmosphere. So yes, it is something that can raise eyebrows and would certainly warned. If you go by the NAM for an outlook from SBC for our area, with, again, some hail analogs even showing up. Now, the NAM usually is overly aggressive. You guys know this on the convective parameter, so it may be way off the chain here on the data. But even when you look at the more conservative GFS, it still says marginal severe, which is actually something that's hard to squeeze out of the GFS sometimes, but it's saying marginal severe. The shear is not as high, but not low. It's 34. Our shear today is averaging about 15, to give you an idea of the difference. Today's stuff is more convective as far as instability based and outflow boundaries. This is more energy aloft for the thunderstorms to maintain themselves for several hours. The fit index also a -5 to about -6. So it's got my attention to where I think that we may have to raise the numbers on Saturday even, and we may have to deal with potential for maybe some stronger thunderstorms on Saturday itself. Not the best of news. We'll watch that. Now, Sunday, in the morning hours, the back edge of the rainy night, Saturday night, will be in our eastern counties. But we're not totally in the clear. Look at the wind direction, still southwest. As we head throughout the day, the main front will then begin to approach by the afternoon period on Sunday. So we're going to clear out. We're going to get some sunshine. That'll allow temperatures once again to warm up. And then we've got to deal with the actual front Sunday afternoon, evening. That means there will be some instability. Now, the moisture really gets yanked out of this by this point because it was such a rainy period, potentially on Saturday and Saturday night, that by the time the main front gets in Sunday, there's not a whole lot to work with. But there is some heating of the day potentially from the sun. So when you look at the soundings, NAM showing marginal severe. Again, the red and green line not close together. It means it's not as saturated. So moisture levels have been yanked out. But there is the wind shear, by the way, at 24. Lift index about -4 or so. So yes, instability is there. I think hail will be a bigger threat and probably not even severe potential, and maybe some downburst winds. Looks more scattered because, again, it's not saturated profile, so it's going to be more blotchy, not a solid line moving through. GFS, a little more moisture profile to it, but very similar idea of the marginal severe potential on Sunday. So the weekend is not set in stone, and the data is starting to evolve, and I think the key in this, and why the models are doing this, is even though the front is approaching, we've now got the issue of how active is our front now in the area going to move out of the way, how active is going to be in that short term, and then this upper low in Texas is throwing the models for a loop too. So I think that's why you're seeing these details getting refined, and you see what happens. When you add some sunshine and heating, you change the profile completely of the outcome, and that's what we got to watch for. All right, after that, we do have another band of moisture moving on Monday after the front moves by. This is the PWatts measure of moisture in the atmosphere. This is mainly going to be a period of clouds, it looks like, but we can't rule out a few ice-age showers on Monday, and we keep the rain chance real small. After that, dry air really takes over as we head into next Tuesday and Wednesday. Those will be our driest and most comfortable periods of time coming our way will be next Tuesday, Wednesday. Because then after that, we'll watch. This is the 500 level on the GFS. You can see a trough digs more into the west. Got a trough here in the northeast moving out. And what you find here is the ridge trying to build over the Gulf of Mexico, which is going to allow for that tropical system potentially to influence Florida, by the way. We'll be watching that. But the ridge really begins to build. Once you get to heights approaching, especially 594, you're dealing with a heat wave potential. You see that's still confined to the south. We do heat up locally. But as we head into the end of next week toward next Saturday, we're getting 591 heights in our area and 594 not far. So later next week, toward the beginning of that weekend, around the 11th, the heat potential really begins to kick in, and that's something we'll have to watch. All right, so a lot of shaking and moving, guys, between now and the 11th of June to get through. Stay tuned for changes over the weekend. I'll see you coming up at 11 o'clock. Have a good one.